Kinsey Schofield here. Welcome to Crown and Conflict, a series dedicated to dissecting the most riveting royal scandals in history. With insight from world-renowned royal experts, we explore the stories that shook the monarchy and captivated the globe. This week, Charles Rae, former Sun's royal correspondent, but also my favorite author of The People's Princess, joins me to remember Princess Diana. I did get my hands on a copy of your book. So if you are curious, you're watching and you've heard me mention it before, it's available online. You just have to find your little crevice and corner and you can snatch one up right now. Uh, what was that like to create that book? Was it a no-brainer that did you feel compelled to do it? Because it's like a love letter to her.
Um, Compelled to do it. No, it was something that the editor at the time asked me, would I do it? And when I say it was a rush job, I mean it was produced very, very quickly in-house,
Oh,
with great pictures, and obviously a bit of history of Diana. It was for me quite pleasing, to do it, very emotional to do, but I was pleased with the end result. Um, People like me, we tend not to write more than 6 paragraphs or 12 paragraphs for a newspaper, so that was something completely different I'd never done before. But no, thoroughly enjoyed it, and it did reasonably well, so I was quite pleased with that too.
your first experience. Yeah, I'd say that's, you've hit it out of the ballpark when that's the first time you've been given an opportunity to do something like that. And it was, sounds like it was a great experience. I love how you're like, though, it's a rush job. I know I'm going to get the facts from you. I know I'm going to get the truth from you. But I really quickly, before anybody starts commenting on my hair in the chat, my curling iron broke this morning, and I've already been all over eBay to get a new one. So please bear with me. Um, Before we get into the life and legacy of Princess Diana, which you dominate in that space, and I'm so excited to talk to you about it. Another conflict that continues to dominate the current headlines is Prince Harry versus the royal family.
Yeah.
I don't live in the space where I see a reunion happening in September around the Well Child Awards. I'd love to know your opinion about that.
Uh, you, we've all been too long in this game to say never, it could never happen. We just don't know. There was a rumor which emanated from the States that there was going to be, there may be a possibility of a meeting. There was never anything concrete that they were actually going to meet. Now, let's deal with some facts first of all. I mean, Harry is flying over here for the Well Child Awards on September the 8th. He's flying 5,500 miles to be in the UK. He's still going to be 500 miles away from the King. The King is not in England. He is in Scotland. He's at Balmoral, where he will be for the rest of the month. The only times that will change is when he flies down here for the odd job. He will be coming back down on the 19th of September for the white tie event for President Trump at Windsor Castle. But it is in and out. He will go back to Balmoral. Now, unless the King is coming down for some cancer treatment, and that may be around the time that Harry's here. The other thing is we don't know, Kinsey, how long is Harry going to be here? He's here
Right.
on September
It's
on the
usually
8th.
blink and you'll miss him. Remember, he just
Yeah,
picked
yeah.
up and left after the coronation.
It's usually 48. He's usually been here for about 48 hours unless it's been the court case. So what we don't know is if there's any time in the schedules of the king um, for a meeting. Now, when people talk about a reunion, I don't see a reunion. If there is anything happening, there may well be a meeting. Because we're now talking about, forget about the king, forget about he's a prince. We're talking about a father and a son who are estranged for a whole variety of reasons. And you've got to ask the question, if they do sit down opposite each other, what are they going to say? How are they going to approach it? Someone's going to have to break the ice and say, I'm sorry. Now, is that going to be the king? I doubt that very much. Is it going to be Harry? Well, He hasn't shown any sign of saying sorry about anything just lately at all. So it's very difficult to work it out, and no one is saying, anything very much. I mean, we had the meeting in London of Harry's people, and one of the
Suspiciously
king.
leaked. I mean, doesn't it concern you that we know about that meeting?
Oh, I am convinced it was leaked from Harry's side. I have no doubt of that whatsoever. I mean, I know the people involved in that story, particularly the photographer. This is not a paparazzi photographer. This is someone who is a newspaper photographer who works on information given to him by his bosses, his news desk, his picture desk. So they knew what was going to happen. They knew where it was going to be. He was there. Now, isn't it incredible? This is supposed to be a top secret meeting, but they sit in the open air for about 5, 10 minutes, long enough for a photographer to click away. I mean, photographers don't need that much, not with motorized cameras and everything else. So, yeah,
Also,
I mean,
and who did it benefit? Prince Harry continues to lose staff at Invictus.
sure,
He's in the last few hours lost someone that important to him at Travelist. He's lost Senabale. He has the African Parks charity scandal that hangs over his head
yeah,
that he
yeah, yeah.
refuses to acknowledge. Meghan, what's going on with Meghan? I mean, where do we begin with Meghan Markle, the Miss I Hate Pantyhose? I just feel like the only person that had anything to gain from leaking that meeting is Harry and Meghan, because they realize that there is a extreme decline in their popularity because of their lack of proximity to the British royal family lately.
And also, you've got to remember as well that this whatever meeting, if a meeting happens between Harry and the King, it's not just about those two. There are various other people involved in all this as well. There's William, who we know is not keen on any reconciliation whatsoever. So, and that goes for Catherine as well. But of course, we've got the other part of it, which is an even more important part, is Meghan. Now, I'm still of the camp that believes that Meghan will never set foot in this country again. Now, if she doesn't come back to this country, it means that Archie and Lilibet won't come back either, which further gives, more discomfort for the king and not seeing his American grandchildren.
Doesn't wait, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and
Yeah,
don't forget where you're going with this, but I
yeah,
just want to say there is a cruelty, and we're going to talk
sure.
about Diana here, but this is a man with cancer that
Yeah.
requires him to fly or to be in London 3 times a month for treatment. We're hearing from the palace that he's going to be quote unquote living with this cancer. Um, there is a cruelty in not making an effort to make sure the king sees his grandchildren. That's I think it's primarily Meghan, but obviously Harry's guilty of it too.
Sure.
And we're going to talk about Harry and Meghan shoving Princess Diana 2.0 down our throats in a second. But when people try to tell you and me that Meghan is just like Diana, I know Diana was drama, but I don't think she would have kept her grandbabies away from their grandfather.
No, I don't think so as well. I mean, just going back to the Meghan, so the Meghan factor is very, very important in all this. And of course, you could turn around and sort of say, you talked about cruelty, which you're absolutely correct. I totally agree with you. But let's not forget there is another grandfather who hasn't seen his grandchildren either. We're all talking about a reunion with the king and everything else. Don't see any signs of any reunion with the other granddad, anytime soon. I mean, that's still a problem that's got to be solved. So this is not something that can be solved in one quick meeting between Harry and the King if it goes ahead. It's just impossible.
Doesn't that lead you to believe, though, that there's an ulterior motive in any sort of reconciliation with the royal family, and that ulterior motive is financial?
Financial is a big motive in all this. You opened up this discussion with their need to be connected to the royal family. Because if you take away the royal family element, if they're just plain Mr. and Mrs. Sussex, who cares, what they do and how they do it and what jams they make and everything else. It's not important. It's just it won't sell anything. So they need that royal connection. But is Meghan going to toe a line? She doesn't make it, she hasn't made it easy at all to toe any line. I'm not talking about, being subservient or anything like that, but just being nice would be a change for Meghan, to be
It
perfectly.
would. It would be a big change for
Yeah, it would
Meghan.
be a big change.
Hey guys, I want to take a minute to tell you about a brand I really love. Peak. They're reimagining wellness with science backed tea crystals and superfood blends made with the cleanest ingredients. Everything they create is designed to make daily rituals simple and effective. Whether for gut health, radiant skin, steady energy, or just feeling your best. For me, hydration was always tricky. I drank plenty of water, tried different electrolytes, and even used the right very expensive skincare, but still had dry skin, brain fog, and trouble sleeping. That changed with Peak's deep hydration protocol. In the morning, I take BT Fountain, the beauty electrolyte. It hydrates from within, smooths skin, and gives steady energy. At night, I wind down with RE Fountain, the calming electrolyte, which has a form of magnesium that melts tension and helps me sleep deeply without the grogginess. What I love most is how clean it is. No sugar, fillers, or artificial flavors, just ingredients like lemon juice and beetroot. Within a week, my skin looked more hydrated, my focus was sharper, and I just felt better. If you want to give it a try, I've got a special link in the show notes for you, 20% off for life, plus a free gift with my link, peaklifecom/Kinsey. That's PIQUE life.com/Kinsey. When I was challenged about the reunion, people saying that they really felt like the reunion could happen. I said, this is a woman that just went on Bloomberg and complained about not having a voice while she was a working member of the royal family in pantyhose. If there's still that element of the, resentment and bitterness, there's no way that this is a couple that are actively trying to pursue any sort of reconciliation.
Just on that point about that, I never had a voice in the royal family. Well, it didn't stop Diana having a voice. She had a huge voice on a number of issues. Queen Camilla has a huge voice on a number of issues. Catherine has a huge voice on a number of issues. No one's silenced Diana, and certainly no one's even trying to silence the Queen and the Princess of Wales. So this thing about I didn't have a voice in the royal family is absolute codswallop. It's rubbish. I mean, it's just absolute rubbish. I mean,
Amen.
yeah, I mean, the point we've said this before. I was firmly of the belief that when she came into the royal family, this was a good thing for the royal family because it was another couple who could do some good in the royal family, who could do things. Now, she could have found her voice. I mean, this is a woman who's quite shown she has got a voice and she uses it, in all ways. But she could have used her voice for good, just as the other royal women have done. It's never stopped them. Never stopped them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, the idea of this Netflix Christmas special that might, you know, negatively affect in any way or um, lessen the impact that Catherine's Christmas Carol concert will have this year because there will be comparisons really bothers me because Catherine, everything she does is so pure and selfless and has a bigger cause or meaning. And everything Meghan has done over the last few years is commercial, commercial, commercial. And I want to say, can we stop? Can we stop? There's no comparison.
I don't think anything that Megan does, and I don't, well, she can do what she wants. It's entirely up to her. But in terms of the Christmas Carol concert, I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to upset that at all. I mean, it's purely the Princess of Wales is doing it. It'll be broadcast, and maybe not live, but it'll be broadcast here. I'm sure it'll go abroad as well. It's Christmas, and it's all going to be about nice, singing and children and everything else, and Christmas trees and Christmas lights and Christmas decorations. There isn't anything that Megan's could possibly do that could upset that. Nothing at all.
Ugh, trying to sell us jam come Christmas time. Girl, keep your loose fruit spread. Okay, so I want to talk about your experience in covering Princess Diana because that's the character that led me into this entire world. I was a little girl fascinated with this woman. What were your first impressions of Diana? And did you meet her or get to spend a lot of time around her?
Well, let's deal with the first part first. The first time I saw her, yeah, a very beautiful woman. There's no question about that. I mean, she was tall, blonde, long legs. I mean, what was not to like? Um, I think initially I got the impression that she was quite naive about things. There was always complaints from staff that when she went on royal jobs, that she ignored the briefs. They always get briefs about what the job was about, and she ignored them. She didn't really care up until the point that she developed her own interest in the charities, landmines, the Royal Ballet, AIDS. These were things that were very, very important to her. Now, and she learned an awful lot. She did more than study the briefs about these causes. I mean, she was an expert. I mean, quite clearly an expert on landmines and everything else. So this was a she it was like a butterfly developing all the way through, and she came through very, very well. Photographer, you ask any photographer, they believe that Diana was always looking down the camera at them, that she was flirting with the camera. I mean, it's very photogenic. I mean, you
Yeah.
just got to look at any of the pictures. You can never find a picture that showed Diana in a bad light. I mean, she could wear a sackcloth and ashes and she'd still look $1 million. There's no doubt about that. I met her yeah, more than several times. We had lots of conversations about a variety of topics, usually at press receptions. We had odd phone calls as well, where, we discuss things that she was about to do and so forth. I'm not saying I was her greatest confidant. I'm not suggesting that at all, because there were two or three other reporters who I know quite well who had very similar conversations and chats with her. Richard Kay, a very close chum of mine, was much more of a confidant to Diana than I ever was.
Yeah, we saw the pictures of her getting in and out of his car.
And I'll tell you something about those pictures. On the day that those pictures were taken, I received a phone call from Richard Kay, and we were talking. It was a Saturday, so it was like in those days I didn't have a paper to work for the following day because we didn't publish on a Sunday. Completely different to what it is now. And it was, but it wasn't unusual for him to ring me, on an odd day. We were just chatting away, and I could hear this woman giggling in the background. And I said to him, I said, "Oh, who's in the car with you? Is it Emma, who is his wife?" And it wasn't. It was, I later found out it was the Princess of Wales. They'd had a chat and were having a meeting and everything else. I don't understand. And I asked him about it, but he's never revealed to me why they decided to ring me. It wasn't to boast or gloat or anything, because he denied it was the Princess of Wales, but it was the Princess of Wales because the pictures proved it was the Princess of Wales.
She just was a little bit naughty sometimes.
Oh, sure.
I think they were having fun. They had a mutual friend in you, and they were like, and I mean, we
Yeah.
know we know she wasn't above prank calling because look at the art dealer boyfriend.
Oh, no, no. I mean, look, there isn't anybody in this world that is perfect. And Diana had her flaws. She wasn't perfect. There's no doubt about it. But for the time that she spent on this earth, she did a hell of a lot of good for a hell of a lot of people. I mean, I remember on one occasion where she was meeting a mother. I can't remember exactly why, but she was meeting a woman, a young mother, to do something, and they'd gone to Kensington Palace, and Diana was late. Not terribly late, 5, 10 minutes late, that sort of thing. But as Diana walked into the room, and you got to remember, when people are meeting members of the royal family, I don't care what they say now, but you're 2 minutes away from meeting a member of the royal family. Believe me, your legs are jelly. Your
Yeah.
brains turn to mush. You don't know what you're going to say. Nothing. Now, Diana walked into that room. She ignored everyone else in that room and saw that mother and went straight over to her and said, "Hello, I'm Diana. I'm really sorry I'm late, but I had trouble getting the boys to school." Now, there you go. that's destroyed the princess and the pauper scenario straight away. You're talking about two mums having a chat about the kids. Simple as
So
that.
cute. What
It's
a
not, you
great,
can't teach people that.
yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I think I have a question about that a little later
Yeah.
about can what we love about Diana is compassion, empathy, authenticity. Um, Meghan tries to recreate it. Can you create it? And I think you just answered no. You can't fake that.
No, you can't fake it. There's no fake. Once Diana realized that she uh, had the power, which was a power, had the power to do some good for normal people, everyday people who have got everyday problems, who've got mortgages, who are losing their jobs, who are suffering from various illnesses and everything else. Once she realized that she could provide a bit of glamour in their lives or a bit of compassion more so in their lives, then she was cooking on gas. There was no question about that.
I'm feeling naughty myself when I asked you when she would call you. Did she have a plan? I mean, was she trying to work you because she had a story that it was important for her to get out, unrelated to some great charity? I mean, maybe it is related to some great charity, but I'm curious to know when she would call you, is she saying, Camilla's over at the house right now. I can practically smell her from Kensington Palace.
No,
Or
it
was she
was
calling you to say, "Look, I'm going to shake hands with somebody at an AIDS charity and I'm not going to wear gloves and it's going to be really powerful and I'd love for you to capture it."
it was never a jealousy call. It was never, I'm doing this because I want to upset Charles, or I want to upset Camilla, or anything else. Look, it's been well documented in the past that Diana used the press. Okay, we were a conduit, if you like, for her. She wanted
Willing,
to
very willing.
very well. Our jobs were to write stories about her.
Yeah,
And she's coming in, and she's, whether it's her or whether it's one of her aides are calling you. Um, it was the same effect.
right.
We were winning as well because all I was caring about was getting a great story in the paper the following morning with my name on it.
Right.
I've never taken drugs in my life, but the only drug I've got is seeing my name in the paper. Having a great show in the paper, whether it was the front page, a spread over 2 pages, and the fact that Diana was using the press, well, conversely, we were using her as well because
Mm,
we were getting something out of it.
absolutely. Do you see that? Do you feel like Harry and Meghan try to utilize the Diana playbook sometimes and just fail? Like I do. Like sometimes I think Harry and Meghan, uh, Oprah interview, Panorama interview, um, Spare, Diana, her true story. Sometimes I feel like they think that they're copying Diana's movements without considering the consequences because Diana, her true story actually blew up Diana's life. I mean, maybe she had moments where she felt relief, but the astrologers warned her she shouldn't have done it, and she went along with it anyway. And then the Panorama interview, some say it cost her her life because, Martin Bashir convinced her that she was being spied on and she got rid of her royal
Sure.
protection.
Well, as we now know that the Bashir interview was he got it through wrong means. He lied to her, basically, um, which is a great pity. So she was used by Bashir and the BBC, I mean, it was a devastating interview, absolutely devastating. I mean, the only one that's comparable in this day and age is the Prince Andrew Newsnight interview, in modern terms. But that Panorama interview certainly had a very, very strong effect on the whole of the royal family, not just Diana. And I think the difference between her and Harry and Meghan is, of course, they chose safe outlets. Oprah Winfrey, it's a friend. The book, again, you publish a book, and it's all friendly stuff. Really, they were never. I mean, Oprah Winfrey never once challenged Meghan or Harry on anything that they said. So they had a free shot, if you like, at everything. Remember, they got married 3 days
Twice.
before. They got married 3 days before. And why did we spend millions of pounds on the actual real wedding?
I mean, the wedding that had working members of the royal family cackling in the aisles. It was
Yeah,
so, such a, contrast to normal royal weddings. Yeah, we didn't, the taxpayers didn't need to spend all that wedding. Also, Meghan, technically, this would be your third wedding. Okay.
that's
Technically, it's your third.
right.
How did covering the princess, how did her presence, Diana, differ from other royals that you covered?
Well, while we were talking about royals and Diana, she was irrespective of what anybody else thinks, she was the number one royal. She was the one who attracted. I mean, when you used to, I'm going to give you a little story. We went to India with Charles and Diana, and Charles had always said many, many moons before he even met Diana, that he would like to return to India to take his wife to the Taj Mahal, the greatest monument to love that you could ever imagine. So they go to India, and Diana goes to the Taj Mahal alone.
Oh,
Charles is back in Delhi doing a meeting with a whole load of grey-suited men, a business meeting, which is important to him. I understand that. So we now have Diana at the Taj Mahal, and she sits on that bench in front of it all. And those pictures went round the world, television, newspapers, everywhere. And it there you knew the marriage was gone. You know, it was just she looked fantastic. Again, I'll repeat the phrase, and you're probably going to say it more often. She looked $1 million again. But she's sitting alone, and I remember someone shouting out, how do you feel about this? And she just looked, tilted her head to the one side that she normally did, and said, it's very healing. And of course, when she says that, do you think, well, what do you mean by that? What is that? That's it. She just left it with that. And Charles got a bucket load of criticism then, for not being with his wife at this very, very tender moment. And you left Diana. And I'll tell you one other thing as well, which was, yeah, it's never been really revealed before, but when Diana was there was a whole entourage of various Indian dignitaries. The women were all beautifully dressed in their colorful saris and everything else. There were men there as well who were, very wearing suits and everything else. And of course, she was walking around with them. And I think it was the photographers who said, "No, can we get rid of everyone else and just get the princess sitting at this stone bench," which she did. Of course, that's what we wanted. We wanted her to be alone to even emphasize the fact that she was alone and that she was without her husband. And so that picture and that story made headlines all over the world.
so sometimes it does seem like you were, I don't want to say siding with her, but sometimes it does seem like you were supporting her. Is that,
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't think you're not wrong. I mean, I think my paper, The Sun at that time, in what we used to call the War of the Waleses,
Mm.
when both sides were briefing various organizations about how the marriage was going and everything. Let's not forget that the then Prince of Wales was doing exactly the same as Diana was doing. He was getting his mates to put out their side and everything else, and he did an interview as well with uh, Jonathan Dimbleby,
Dimbleby,
uh,
yeah.
a television interview, which was equally as, oh God, it's a real bad one. This one is. So both sides were briefing because they wanted to win the hearts and minds of the people. And you have to remember that when the royals go on a job and there's two of them together, and you watch William and Catherine, they do exactly the same thing, and they're walking down, you'll see William goes on one side and Catherine goes on the other. They may cross over slightly, but they're not usually, it's unusual for them to be actually together to go down the one side because there's two sides. So they want to try and give everybody. Now, when Charles and Diana did it, Diana would get there, go down one side, Charles would start going down there. And you could actually see the looks of disappointment on the faces of the
Audible
people
moans in the
uh,
crowd.
in the crowd, and Charles was always complaining, oh, she's down that side. I'm sorry, you've got me.
Yeah.
He was half joking, but
Yeah.
there was a tinge of jealousy there as well that he was losing out on that adulation, if you like.
I am thrilled no matter what side I get with William and Catherine. I'm just tickled to see either one of them. But sometimes the last time I think I was around them, because people ask me if William's, as stern and as unhappy and strict or, kind of angry as he seems. And I say, no, he's very animated. He reminds me
Sure,
of Princess Diana. He's very funny. And one of the last times I saw him, Catherine was still way, way, way down the line because she asks you so many questions. She's
sure,
so
sure, sure.
engaged when she talks to people. And he's like, I can't take her anywhere, joking
No,
about how Catherine was still so far down
but
the way.
but this is it. You show Catherine a young baby, and
Oh,
she's there for she's going to stop there for donkeys. I mean,
oh my God, that's
she's
so funny
not
because
going to move.
the joke is always if you want to see Catherine, be near the dog or the baby. Find the
That's
dog or the
true.
baby in the crowd, wiggle as close as you can, and that's the best way to get some time with Catherine. Very Diana. Diana loved a babe, loved to see a baby in
Oh,
the crowd.
yeah,
Yeah.
she. I mean, she did. I mean, she loved all that sort of stuff, and that was the human touch, the common touch. And people used to say, that Diana invented all this. Well, she didn't. The Queen
Yeah.
did it
Yeah.
exactly the same when she was younger. The Queen Mother did it the same. And it was a different age, so there wasn't as much handshaking and everything. But they
Also
were,
also documentary or documenting, like we just didn't see as much as of the queen when she was younger. We didn't see much of the queen younger. Everything was handled so differently media wise.
yeah, of
Well,
course it
I mean,
was.
that goes into my next question. What was it like to cover Diana at the height of her, and I hate to use the word fame, but truly she was the most famous woman on earth. Every move she made international news. What was it like to cover her in it feels like it could potentially be chaotic to me.
Oh, well, it's more than chaotic, Kinsey. It was frantic. I mean, it was absolutely frantic. You never knew where you were going. And of course, you got to remember in those days we didn't have social media. There was no Twitter or X. There was no Facebook. There was none of this. There was none of this stuff. Everything was done, on the phone and on a mobile phone. And so even when you got home, you were never off duty because if that phone rang, it was either the office telling you that the Mirror or the Mail had got a story, or it was a royal contact that was telling you something was going on. It just didn't stop. I mean, during the time of, where I was covering Diana, I saw very little of my family. It's very little indeed. I'm not asking for sympathy. I
No,
mean,
that's
it's my,
interesting.
it's my, it's my fault. It's my choice. So I missed an awful lot. I missed some birthdays, some school events, and everything else. But I wouldn't have changed it, for the world. I mean, I love my family dearly. Don't get me wrong, but there was
Once in a
another
lifetime
family.
opportunity.
There was another family, that you had to look at and be constantly aware of. And so it didn't really matter where you were. If you were on an outing or whatever else, if that phone rang, my wife would just bury her head in the hands because it meant that I'm just going to dump her wherever we were and head off somewhere, usually exotic because it'd be flying off somewhere. But it was quite chaotic, the whole thing, because you never knew what it was that was going to happen. And of course, when it happened, you had to go, you had to be there, and it was at times very, very difficult to work it all out. I was lucky that I, the calls that I was telling you about, if you got a phone call saying the Mirror or the Mail got it, but don't forget they were getting similar calls as well, saying, "Oh, the Sun's got this story." So I'd like to think that we were giving them a good run for their money as well.
Oh, I bet you are. Yeah, I know. You are watching history be made, and
Sure.
that's difficult to turn away from. That's difficult to turn down, especially when you realize that you have an important part in telling it. Even really getting into kind of the more, well, the marriage falling apart, you know that this is insane. Like, we've got to cover this. We have to cover this carefully because this is our future king that we're dealing with.
Good.
Um, did you ever feel that the media narrative about Diana was different from the woman you saw in front of you? Because you're talking about the Mirror and the competition between other papers. Did you ever read something and go, I don't think that that's true. That's somebody trying to sell a magazine, and I don't like that.
I think, well, it's always something. If you didn't get the story, and someone else has got a story, you had to sort of, and because you're getting questioned, by your bosses, why have you got this story? So you've got to then try and check it out. They're not interested in hearing that it's not true because it's a great story and it's made some. So they're not interested in hearing that there's a different side to it. You've missed it. That was the bottom line. So it was again very difficult to sort of keep tracks on every little thing. And I got a fair amount of exclusives. I didn't get them all. The ones I lost, I lost. There wasn't much I could do about it. But as I've said to you already, we gave others a good run for their money as well. So, when it comes to the score, I think we were just slightly ahead. I was quite happy with the way things went.
I think you're right. I think you were ahead. Was there a particular interaction with Diana that stayed with you? You mentioned it doesn't have to be with you specifically, but you mentioned that great interaction with the mom where she calms her down because she's like, I just had to drag my kids out of bed. Is there anything else that you saw that um, tickled you, or that you just thought, what a sweet, cute woman?
There was one Christmas where Diana, which the marriage was gone by then, but this was probably one of the last times that Diana was going to spend Christmas at Sandringham.
Mm.
And I'd had a conversation with her just beforehand, and she said to me, she said, "Are you going to be at Sandringham?" I said, "Well, of course. Where else? Where else? Where am I going to be? At Christmas. I'm going to spend it with my own family. I'm going to
Yeah.
spend it." Um, and she said, "Oh, all right, because something might be happening up there." And I said, "Well, what's that?" And she said, "Oh, you'll see, you'll see." So anyway, as normal, we went up to Sandringham, and once we'd done the church service, we moved away, and we moved away to a hotel with a car park that you could see the road from Sandringham back down towards London. And I saw her green Jaguar, which was under escort of a marked police car. So she's now left Sandringham. So I thought, this is a bit strange. I'm going back home this early. And we followed the cars down. Just before we got to a motorway, the police car peeled off. Diana, in her green Jaguar, put the foot down and went straight down the M11. Now, and I'm not joking. She was going well over 100 miles an hour down this motorway. It's Christmas, so there's not much else on the road. We were following her, and we eventually peeled off because she was still going back. 2 or 3 months later, we were in Japan, and we were having a chat. And I said to her, I said, because I'd written a story saying Diana's 100-mile escape from Sandringham. She's fed up with the royals. She wanted to get back to London. I didn't really know why she was getting back to London that quickly. And she said to me, she said, well, I had to race back for the omnibus of a soap, one of these television programs. It's the omnibus of something called EastEnders, which is very, very big in this country.
I know
And
what it is. That's
yeah, yeah, I'm
hilarious.
sure. And I thought, and I started to laugh. And then much later, I thought, hmm. That's very sad. If that is
Yeah.
true, she's not telling fibs. That's very sad.
Right.
She said I was quite happy to have my lunch on a tray watching EastEnders, and I thought that was quite sad.
I
And there's
do
a
think that that's her. She did to me seem to have a little bit of a self-deprecating sense of humor. And I don't know if in telling you that she was trying to get garner sympathy or she was trying to have that self-deprecating sense of humor of like, I'm this gorgeous, long-legged, looking like $1 million woman, and I'm gonna be by myself watching a soap opera eating a
yeah,
TV dinner.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. And I mean, there was at the same occasion, not long after the Sandringham, we went to Brazil, and Diana always went swimming, so we knew that. And myself and a photographer and a couple of other photographers, we found a building that overlooked the swimming pool. This,
Mhm.
this is a really expensive hotel in Rio. But we found this building overlooking, and Diana came out in the morning, went for a swim, great pictures. Diana in a swimsuit. I mean, you couldn't, yeah, exactly. So again, big shows in the papers. All the others are going mad and everything else. And at that same thing, did you enjoy the pictures of the you saw of you in the swimming pool? She says, yes, yes. She says, I always know you're there, and so I always make sure I've got a brand new swimsuit. So I mean, it's what women do. They always want to look their best, at everything. And I thought that was quite sweet of her as well,
She picked out a polka dot one just for you. Did she ever
yeah.
push back on coverage? Did she ever call you and say that this is not true or I don't like this?
Oh yes. We were in Italy, and I had written a story uh that a lot of her friends were concerned for her mental health because of her association with various people. There wasn't, and we'd gone to Modena in Italy, which was where Luciana Pavarotti had an annual concert for War Child, and she had been invited to go along to that. And we were all in the hotel, and the story had appeared, and I was in the lobby, uh, and I made the mistake. I always try and make sure that I've got an exit, an escape route of some sort in case something goes wrong. But I was in the lobby and I was watching her, and she was talking to Bono, the pop star Bono,
Yeah.
and I was about 20 yards, 20, 30 yards away from her, and I could see that she spotted me over, her eyes, with her eyes, and she must have said something to Bono like, "Excuse me a second, I've just got to go and sort something out." Now she marched over with her arms, going like this, and I knew then that this was not going to be a friendly chat, and she was clearly not happy. And she came across, and when she was angry with you, she always referred to you as Mister.
Ooh.
So, when she said, Mr. Ray, I need to speak to you, I knew things were not going to go well. And she said, I want to tell you that I'm not crazy. And I said, but I'm not suggesting that you are crazy. All I've said is that there are certain people are concerned for you because of things, the way things are going at the moment. And she says, well, you can tell those friends that I'm perfectly okay. With that, she spun round, went back straight over, and restarted a conversation with Bono again. That was one of the only times that I had a
You were in
fallout.
the middle of a Bono and Princess Diana
Yeah,
sandwich
yeah,
conversation. What a
yeah.
thrill.
Well,
What do you think people today misunderstand about Diana? Because you've seen Spencer, oh my gosh, with Kristen Stewart, which makes her look crazy talking to the ghost of Anne Boleyn wrapped around a toilet. The Crown, where she's basically the only throne she has is a toilet. You know, I I loved the Diana the musical with the James Hewitt, oh, James Hewitt number. Like you've seen the way she's just kind of become a character. How do you feel like was she in any way? Do you see any truth to the portrayals we've seen recently
no,
of Diana? Yeah,
no,
good.
no,
I'm glad
none,
to hear
none,
that.
none whatsoever. And I think as well, the problem is that Diana is so iconic. You put her in the same mold of iconicism, if that's a proper word, of Marilyn Monroe, James Dean, Jackie Kennedy,
Elvis.
great Elvis, yeah, JFK, all these great people with all their foibles and their greatness and their mismanaged private lives and everything else. she's up there. And I think as well that for a great many people now, they never saw Diana in real life. They never experienced what she was like. And I always find it uh, strange that some commentators in this country, you know, don't actually realize how important Diana was. I mean, I got very, very annoyed and angry, when she had died, and you got all the sympathy coming out from millions and millions and millions of people in this country, but globally. And psychologists were trying to sort of say this is a phenomenon, it's not right, and these people never met Diana, but they felt an affinity with her because they realized that she was a great woman. And
Right.
I think, well, a great woman, great person. And I think that you can have a great deal of respect for someone you may not have met, and find something that you liked about them. And I think it's a great pity now that she's gone, that she's not around anymore. I mean, she'd be in her 60s now, to 27 to be 63 now. That's when she died in 1997. She was 36. Um, and so much has gone wrong within the royal family. And if she's still being around, I don't think, particularly in her own family, those things would have gone wrong.
I don't
I
think
think
Harry would have married Meghan. I think
I
that
don't know.
I
I
feel
don't
like
know
that
about
was
that.
an act of rebellion.
It could have been. It could have been. I mean, uh, I whether Megan,
Duncan Larkham the other day called it a shotgun wedding, and I was like, well, now that you say that, they did get married really quickly. I mean, everything just happened so quickly.
which is one of the reasons why there was an initial fallout between William and Harry. William was trying to protect his brother by saying, "Are you sure that this is the right woman for you?" He wasn't saying, "Oh, Megan's some sloppy idiot or whatever that you shouldn't have anything to do with." He just wanted him to be sure that she was the right woman. You're absolutely right. It was quite quick. I mean, I don't subscribe to the theory that Harry and Meghan are going to split up anytime soon.
I
I
don't
don't.
think that he would leave his children voluntarily
I don't
like
think
that.
no. Well, can you imagine that? I just don't see them splitting up. I mean, they're together, and I wish them the best of luck. As a married couple. I don't want to see anybody's marriage fall apart for whatever reason.
Can I just say regarding Elvis, I've ever since Spare, when Harry said that he was so not impressed with Graceland, I've been that was it for me. That's when I know you've accused your family of racism, but when he was talking about how unimpressive Graceland was, Elvis's home, that's when I was just like, this guy who has had everything handed to him on a silver platter doesn't really. And he was like, why are Americans so enamored with this? Because Elvis worked hard, started from nothing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
his twin brother dies in the womb. He comes out and is living in poverty, becomes this superstar, buys this home for his mother who like never got over the loss of the first baby. It's like it's this rags to riches story that we admire. And Harry, who's just been given absolutely everything, walks or kicks around Graceland, is like, not I'm not impressed. It's like, excuse me.
No, you made a big mistake there. A big mistake.
I'm going to ask you some questions about Meghan and Diana, and then I'll let you go. Thank you for being so
No, it's a
generous with your
pleasure.
time. Meghan has been accused of deliberately modeling herself after Diana, and I don't know if you catch it too sometimes. From your perspective, are there genuine parallels, or is it more of a PR strategy? Even Prince Harry tells us sometimes, like, she reminds me so much of my mom.
Well, he's going to say that in any case. That's his wife. If she is trying to model herself on Diana, she's not doing a very good job, at it. In my view, again, I refer back to when they were here as members of the royal family, when they were actually doing royal jobs. Yes, I could see a parallel with Diana. She was doing the right things. She was shaking the right hands. She was hugging the right people. But I haven't seen anything, since then that says to me, oh yeah, yeah. I can see you doing Diana. Yeah, no, no. I don't think. And I think she'd be wrong to do it. I think she should be her own woman. Well,
Mm.
she is being her own woman, but not in the way that I would like it. And again, I keep on saying this to you. I've got no problems with her making money, none whatsoever. If she wants to make money, that's absolutely fine. But it's the way that it's being done, the way it's being manufactured. Just, millions of
Sussex,
deals.
Sussex, Duchess of Sussex,
Yeah, yeah.
Duchess of Sussex. I
I'm
hate
not.
the
I'm no
royal
longer.
family.
I'm no
Yeah.
longer Meghan Markle. Which is she's technically she is right. She is now Meghan Sussex. There's no question about that.
Well, you know what? If Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has to deal with 2 decades of Kate Middleton, then Meghan Markle can sit down and enjoy the Meghan Markle. It's called search engine optimization, Meghan. You need to get with the program. You were a
Yeah.
blogger. Do you think Meghan misunderstands what actually made Diana so beloved?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, Meghan never saw Diana firsthand, whereas, Harry did. And Harry knows how his mother worked. In fact, she took him and William, to homeless shelters to meet normal people. She took them to McDonald's. She took them to the cinema. She took them to everything that, mums do and dads do, all the time. So they had, okay, I'm not going to say it was a normal upbringing, but they had an idea of what it was like for normal people to live in this time, in this age, So, and I don't think Megan understands that.
That's a good point. How does Meghan's relationship with the press differ from Diana's? Earlier, you mentioned she handpicks people that aren't going to challenge
Yeah.
her. Um, but I have contacts that say that the Sussexes have leaked certain information to them. But then they say they want their privacy. There's like what this week in People magazine, there was a real puff piece about Meghan's back to school hacks, something I can't see Diana doing. So I don't
Um,
know. I think she's got a weird, I don't know what about her relationship
I'm
with the
I'm
media.
I'm pretty sure Megan's people leak things because that's the way it works. I mean, governments leak things what they want to get out, unpopular things. They want to smooth the way till when it happens. I don't see any problem in them talking, but they're choosing who they leak to, quite clear. To be perfectly honest, as Diana did,
Yeah.
it's not any great. This is what PR is all about. This is
But
how
you
it
know
works.
why that annoys us? Because Harry and Meghan complain about the palace doing it as if the palace is
Sure.
the only one that does it. And you're like,
Yeah.
actually, all of a sudden, Us Weekly magazine in America, once Meghan starts dating this guy, starts getting real intel from within a palace in a foreign country. Lainey Gossip out of or out of Canada starts getting real intel from within a palace in a foreign country. So it's hard for us to digest Harry and Meghan's gripes about the palace swapping out stories. Hey, and I think that I've said this and I got a lot of pushback for it, but I know that when they were younger, if Prince William did something naughty, the palace, Clarence House, might pick up the phone and say, we don't want that to run, but Prince Harry recently got into some trouble. Would you like this story instead to kill the Williams story? And Harry acts like it's the end of the world. And it's like, that's a typical Tuesday in Hollywood.
Well, the things about. I mean, I was never a benefit of the palace, and I don't think there's many reporters who would ring you up and give you a story. You were the ones who had to find them.
Yeah.
And I think Harry is right on one occasion where, when he was caught with the smoking drugs, smoking wacky backy or whatever it was, and they
It's
they
like a
put
typical Tuesday for him here in California where it's legal.
yeah where where a royal aide had decided that he came up with the king or the then Prince of Wales was going to take his son to a rehab centre, not to put him in there, but to see what the effects could be if you carry on with all this. But the problem was that had already happened. That he'd already been to that rehab centre and so that was manufactured. I think Harry's wrong. I don't see doing stories about William, where a choice, if you're going to do a story about, well, if you kill that story, we'll give you a story about Harry. Because you've got to remember that for a very long period after Diana died, the boys were hands off.
Mhm.
We never touched the boys unless they were there doing a public event.
So it's
Unless
your
they
impression that the only reason Prince Harry was in the papers was because he was actually being naughty, not to save William's, not
Oh
to
no,
save Prince William's reputation, because
no,
he's the heir.
never. In my experience, there was never an occasion where he was in the papers because he'd been sacrificed to save William. No,
Mm.
I just don't. It never crossed my mind. Never came across it. Never came across it.
All right. My last question is
Mm.
critics argue that Meghan uses Diana's memory to legitimize her own brand. And I don't mean as ever, and I don't mean with love, Meghan, but I just mean overall. Do you think that that damages Diana's legacy, or is Diana's legacy strong enough? I do think that Harry and Meghan damaged Diana's legacy because the more that Harry specifically pushes the martyr narrative, the more you have people push back and go, I mentioned it earlier. Well, she called her ex-boyfriend 300 times and hung up on him. And, the stories about some of her unhinged behavior start to surface because they're trying to humble Harry. They're trying to fact check Harry.
I don't think you can damage Diana's legacy at all. I think it's there. It's safe. Um, I think Harry and Meghan just need to get on with their own lives and stop whinging and carping about other people and everything else. As I said, I don't mind them making money. Best of luck to them, if that's what they want to do. But they really need to sort of wake up and smell the coffee. It's not always about them. And if you really want to have a reconciliation with other members of the royal family, you're going to have to work an awful lot harder. I don't think that reconciliation will happen, but that's just me. But if they really are interested in it, they really need to start saying sorry for an awful lot of things that they have done.
Amen to that. All right. Agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Charles Rae, what a pleasure it has been to pick your brain about your exciting career. Thank you so much. I can't wait to have you back
Pleasure.
soon.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.